I'm so guilty. Hello everyone and welcome back to episode 39 of the Gamer Crafting Podcast. I am Angie, Indie Dyer, and General Mess. This is a pre-recorded podcast that I recorded last week when I was recording the friend breakup episode. I was kind of struggling to keep up with podcasts, so I thought maybe if I stacked them up that would be easier to manage, so we'll see. I don't have new stuff to show you every week anyway, so I am still winding up all of yarn from last week, but from my perspective, it's only been about 5 minutes, enough time for me to get up and check the mail and come back to the couch. Operation Social Justice launched last Sunday, and I don't know how it went yet because I'm pre-recording this. Hopefully it went amazing, and hopefully it was a huge success and people were able to raise lots of money, and I will say that most shops are still running those, pre-orders, or they're still selling whatever it is that we're raffling, and most people are still running things until the end of the month, at which point I will ask people to self-report, how much money they made for which charity, and hopefully we'll be able to put that into a Google Doc for everyone so that they can check it out. So as I said, this is pre-recorded. Now that Operation Social Justice is over it's not over. Now that Operation Social Justice has been launched from your perspective, not from mine, I'm still anxiously awaiting to see what happens. But as it's now been launched from your perspective, I feel like I can talk a bit more about some stuff that I've been working on that I didn't really want to talk about too much before, because I didn't want to pull focus from Operation Social Justice, because I wanted people to think about supporting small businesses that are supporting small charities rather than thinking about, my own, not vanity projects, but my own creative projects, basically. So many of you will know, if you watched the Hi, I'm Ryan podcast back in February, I don't know, at some time. If you watched that, then you will know that I wrote a book. And that book that I wrote got accepted by a publisher, and then that publisher folded, and then I was super depressed for a few months while I figured out what I was going to do next. And then I decided that I was going to self-publish because that's a thing that I feel like I could do. And so now my book is up for pre-order. I'm just going to probably cheekily drop that into the description. But my book is about steampunk, lesbian space pirates. It is a little bit spicy, so if you don't really like spicy books, then it's perhaps not for you. Please don't buy it and then leave me a bad Amazon review saying that you're totally scandalized by the page and a half where there's spiciness in the book. It's not very much, but it is there. So the book is called Deus Ex Mechanic, and it is about a sort of the empire, the sort of bad fascist government overlords in this series. This is book one of a series. The series is called The Cricket Chronicles. So the sort of bad government overlords are called the Coalition. So this book is about a coalition boiler mechanic, because it is steampunky, boiler mechanic, and the captain of a ship. And it is in space, so playing perhaps a bit fast and loose with we can't actually go into space with steam engines, but hey, maybe if we hadn't abandoned steam as a form of power, then we could have. Anyway, so that's what the book is about, and it's kind of about, decisions being made and hard decisions and discovering your past, and also there's romantic elements in it as well. So that is up for pre-order, and it launches on April 10th, and as of right now, I'm scheduled in to be doing a book launch at a convention in Birmingham, but given everything that's getting canceled, I'm not totes sure that's going to happen, so I'm kind of holding off doing things like buying book swag and so on and so forth, because I'm a little bit nervous. I don't want to pour a bunch of money into it and then have the event get canceled, or decide that we don't want to go to, protect immunocompromised people around us. Neither Sarah or I are immunocompromised, but like I said, there's people around us that I wouldn't want to, accidentally spread anything to them. So that being said, I have a book up for pre-order. If you're interested in pre-ordering it on ebook, then I will drop the link in the description. Unfortunately, Amazon does not allow you to do paperback pre-orders if you're an indie publisher for whatever reason. So if you have your heart set on a paperback, it launches on April 10th. The book is also available on Smashwords and on Kobo if you are to hell with Amazon, they're the evil corporate overlords. I probably wouldn't disagree with you there. So it's also available on Smashwords and on Kobo if you'd like to avoid Amazon. I did decide not to go Amazon exclusive, and that's kind of one of the reasons. I feel like that's an interesting segue because like it's like a steampunk lesbian space pirate book. It's not exactly high literature, and a lot of people would consider that a guilty pleasure. So to kick things off, I'm gonna say I think that guilty pleasures are bullshit. I think that you should be able to enjoy whatever the hell you want to enjoy, and if people want to shame you for it, then they can get into the sea. But that said, let's talk about some of mine that I guess people would consider guilty pleasures, but whatever, I just like them unironically. And that's kind of what this whole podcast is going to be, is me being like, if you like a thing, just like a thing. You don't have to get like society's approval to like a thing. It's fine. If people are going to be like, oh, I really hate this show because it's really like twee and it's really like silly and boring, then like, who cares? Who cares? You go ahead and you like your thing. You know, I mean, it happens a lot, especially I think with like, when you're an adult who likes, you know, like Adventure Time or, you know, Steven Universe or something. And it's like, people are, oh, it's for kids. And I'm like, whatever, I don't care. The world is a trash fire. You know, like, let me just like my silly saccharine sweet stuff. By the way, Ball 2 is done. If you watched last week, you'll see me win this one. So I'm going to do another one now. This is my blanket club. By the way, this is the Light in the Darkness Blanket Club. I don't know why I'm having issues with L's today. This is the Light in the Darkness Blanket Club. And signups for that closed back in January, and they will be closed until the end of this year when they will open back up for the 2021 Blanket Clubs. So anyway, that's what I'm doing here. Oh my gosh, I would like failed it. At setting this down. Anyway, so starting off with music, shall we? Shall we start off with music? One thing that I really unironically enjoy that a lot of people would probably scoff at would be Taylor Swift. I know that she's gotten a lot of shit over the years, and, you know, maybe she has or hasn't done some things or whatever. If you haven't seen the documentary on Netflix, I think it's called Miss Americana, it is very interesting, and sort of renewed my interest. Also, her newest album, Lover, is it slaps. It's good. I enjoy it. It's like, it's pop and it's fun and like whatever, just like a thing. So that's something that I like, that I reckon most people would be like, oh, Taylor Swift, and she's kind of like, she's the person a lot of people love to hate, and there's a lot of that, both like as I, you know, kind of go through my list here, that people get a bit like, oh, well, it's not this, it's not that. It's like, no one would ever say that, like, you know, I don't know, popular male artists were, you know, oh, I don't know, well, that's not true. I guess people would do it for, like, you know, maybe Nickelback or Coldplay or something. Anyway, my point is, women get a lot more scrutiny. So what other music do I really enjoy? I quite enjoy Paramore, which I realize a lot of people are like, oh, it's for 14-year-olds. Sure, whatever. We're all a 14-year-old at heart, maybe, so it's enjoyable. Like, damn, people just, you know, have some fun. It's enjoyable. I enjoy Paramore. That's all I'm going to say about that. And the last one that I have on my list under music is somebody called Ludovico Einaudi, which a lot of you might be thinking, oh, why is that? Like, why is that a guilty pleasure? And it's because if you kind of come up through the classical music world, which I did, went to school for music, like, a lot of people really snark on Ludovico Einaudi, and they're like, oh, it's crossover classical, it's only for, like, the plebs who don't like real classical music, and, like, whatever, if you enjoy it, just, God, enjoy it. There is a lot of, like, shaming that goes on in the classical music community. People will be like, oh, well, you know, you like musicals suck, you know, if you don't like opera instead, then you're trash, and I don't know, there's so much shaming that goes on in it. It's like actually astounding. Even though I haven't written much music recently other than like sort of intros and outros for videos and so on and so forth, I'm still part of a few different like composer groups, and there was one last week. There was one last week where somebody posted an article about women composers, and the comments under it were just like, Like, I rolled my eyes so hard that it physically hurt. There's comments like, oh, well, don't be mad just because, you know, straight white men dominate an industry. Like, maybe we're just better. And I was like, oh, God. So, films, you know, people like to snark on films. I still really enjoy Legally Blonde. I really enjoy it. I've always enjoyed Legally Blonde. If it's on TV, I'll probably watch it. Same thing with Miss Congeniality, which I remember I went to go see for my birthday the year that it came out. So I don't know how old I was. I was probably like 13 or 14. And I remember my friend from school went with me, and we had a blast, and it was really fun, and I've loved it ever since. I've still never seen the second one. But the first one I really unironically and genuinely enjoy. Also, every like early 2000s dance movie that was made ever. So like Save the Last Dance and Center Stage and Bring It On, which I realize is cheerleaders and not dance, but there's a lot of crossover there. And Black Swan, although that came out in 2010, so that's not really early 2000s, but I feel like a lot of that like energy is still there. Dance movies, I'm here for it. I don't know what it is. It's probably because I, as a person, cannot dance at all. I am very naturally clumsy. Don't know why. Just always have been. When I was younger, everyone was like, oh, you'll grow out of it. I hate to tell you. In fact, I did not grow out of it. So I don't know if it's just like watching these very graceful people do things that I could never, but dance movies, I'm here for it, especially those like late 90s, early 2000s ones. Totally here for it. I would just watch those all the time. Talk about guilty pleasures when it comes to television, because I feel like a lot of people have a lot of shame over what they're watching on TV, but given the numbers that these TV shows pull in, you know somebody's watching them. Is it you? So personally, I've watched Grey's Anatomy since Grey's Anatomy came out a long ass time ago. What? It's gotta be like almost 20 years ago now. So yeah, I've watched Grey's Anatomy like since it came out. I think I was in high school. And there'll be periods where I like, you know, don't watch much of it, and then I'll just binge a whole season or whatever. But I've watched all of Grey's Anatomy since the inception, and like there's a lot of it that you're just like, this is ridiculous. This is kind of like, I mean, it's like a medical soap opera. But it's a really good one, and I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot. I basically enjoy everything that Shonda Rhimes has ever created, but especially Grey's. And no, I'm not going to talk about the Alex Karev thing, so don't jump in my comments and say that, because I haven't actually seen that episode yet. So yeah, that's all I'm saying. For all of you other Grey's fans, I've not actually seen that episode, so please don't spoil it for me in the comments, because I don't know if I'll get to watch it before this video goes out. So yeah, Grey's Anatomy, totally something that I love, like unabashedly love. And Sarah and I really enjoy Don't Tell the Bride, which is not really something that we have in the US, but we have exposed a few of our US friends to it. So Don't Tell the Bride, if you're not from the UK, is a show where the bride, or they've had a couple of gay couples, so like one half of the partnership doesn't know anything that's going on, and then like the other half is the one that gets, I think it's like 13 grand or something, gets 13 grand to plan the whole thing. And obviously some of these are like wildly outlandish. Like there was some guy who had like a zombie themed wedding, because obviously they're trying to get, you know, ratings and to make people be like, oh my god, that's ridiculous, like who would ever. So we both really unironically enjoy Don't Tell the Bride, and like I'll say it is usually like heterosexual couples, so it's usually like the woman doesn't know anything. I've never seen one where it was a heterosexual couple where the woman does all the planning. It's only ever been the other way around, so you know, gender norms, definitely. There haven't been that many gay couples. Could definitely be more. And like I don't know what it is, because like neither of us wanted a big wedding and thus did not have a big wedding and wouldn't want a big wedding, and yet like watching this show is something that we both really enjoy. I don't know. Yeah, so that's probably what would be on my list for TV, like guilty pleasures. But again, I'm just over here unironically liking things, because you know, when the world is such a raging trash fire, unironically liking things isn't gonna hurt anyone. When it comes to yarn guilty pleasures, mine would definitely be chunky yarn, which obviously I'm winding chunky yarn right now for my blanket club. it would definitely be chunky yarn. I know that there's a lot of reasons why people, when they're making things, be they blankets, accessories, garments, etc., why they choose a lighter gauge yarn. The fabric has better movement. You can incorporate more things. If you're doing color work, you can get a more intricate design than if you're using chunky. Sometimes like a chunkier, bulkier garment doesn't really it doesn't have a lot of flexibility or movement. And I get it. I'm totally here for it. But oh man, the way that something knits or crochets up that much faster with chunky just sets off all of the serotonin things in my brain. It just brings me joy. Now, I've never done the super ultra arm knitting yarn because a lot of that's just roving and it'll end up looking bad anyway. But plied chunky yarn, I am 100% here for it. I adore being able to work something up really quick. I'm an impatient person, as it's just in my nature. Naturally clumsy, naturally impatient. What a fantastic combination to have in a person. So I can be very impatient, and I am definitely more of a product than a process maker, which means I like having the thing when I'm done. I like being able to show people, look, I made this. I like being able to take a picture of it and post it on Instagram. I like being able to put a picture up on Ravelry. I like being able to have it sitting behind me during every podcast episode that I record, even though this did take me the better part of a year. I really enjoy having the finished thing. The actual process, it's not that I could take it or leave it, because I still obviously enjoy the process, or I wouldn't be a knitter or a crocheter at all. But yeah, no, I definitely like having the finished thing. And obviously if you're making something in chunky, it's going to be finished that much sooner. And like I said, the blanket took me a long time, but I'm not a very fast knitter either, which is probably contributing to the whole I really like chunky yarn thing. But like I said, because the design elements can be a lot more limited when you're using chunky, there's not tons and tons of patterns out there that I love enough to make. And also because there's a lot of wild variation with chunky and super chunky yarns, sometimes it can be difficult, even if you find a pattern, to find a yarn that gives you the correct gauge. Gauge becomes kind of important, because most of the time, or I think all the time, yarn gauge is determined by how many wraps per inch. If you're wrapping it around a ruler, how many times you wrap it around that ruler. So if that was an inch, it was oh well, that's 6 wraps per inch, or 32 wraps per inch, or so on and so forth. And for the lighter gauges, it's a little bit more cut and dry, but then you get into chunky and super chunky and the margins are much wider, so that can make it difficult to come up with a pattern, especially if people aren't going to be knitting a tension square. Guilty as charged. But that said, I am on the lookout for a chunky weight garment pattern. Well, let's be real, it's going to be a sweater, isn't it? I know that there are people that have made leggings and, dungarees in some cases and stuff, but yarn, I don't know, it can stretch a lot, and I've got thighs that rub together already. I don't need to be making the friction there worse. So in any case, I am looking for a chunky weight sweater pattern. I have a couple in my library, but they're not speaking to me at the moment. Well, I mean, not in a we broke up way. They're not speaking to me as in I'm not feeling inspired by the particular thing. There was one that had I can't remember the name of it, but it's got a little bit of a lace panel, and it's nice, but I bought the pattern I don't know, a year and a half ago. I just don't know that I'm a lace panel kind of person, because I'd have to wear something under it. I mean, I usually wear stuff under my knitted jumpers anyway to just keep them a bit in better condition. I don't know, I'm probably overthinking this, but if you have knowledge of a chunky weight sweater pattern, then hey, drop a link into the comments, let me know. I don't even care if you're the designer of it. I just show me. I want to see. So I'm gonna maybe be thinking about doing a chunky weight sweater this year, along with my like millions of other sweater projects. As we're talking about being about guilt, let's talk about being a non-monogamous maker. I used to be a monogamous maker. I used to just be like, nope, I'm gonna work on this one thing until it's done, because that's how I work on a lot of other things in my life. For example, I mentioned my book a bit earlier. There's people in my writing groups that have like 5, 6, 10 different book projects or stories they're working on at once. I couldn't do that. I have to just work on one book until it's done. I have to draft it all the way to the end. Once I get to the end of a draft, I can maybe work on something in between before I start edits, but no, I have to just work on that one thing straight to the end. And I was the same way when I used to write more music. I was talking a bit about music earlier. I would be like, right, I'm working on this one composition. I'm going to work on this one composition until it's done. I can't work on anything else until I'm like done with this one. And so I thought, well, you know, I'm probably going to be like that with yarn as well. But I realized that I would get annoyed with a project or kind of sick of a project for whatever reason. And then I just, instead of like just pushing through, I would just kind of leave it. I wouldn't do any crafting. I would just leave it like in its project bag, in the tote bag hanging on the back of the door over there. And I would just ignore it for weeks on end instead of working on it. So then I thought, well, maybe I should be, you know, a non-monogamous maker and work on multiple things at once. And that has worked better for me in terms of I always have something that I might like to work on. But it does lend itself to a bit of cast-on-itis, wanting to cast things on all the time. And it also means that I have 8 million projects that are unfinished now. I haven't even started this year's blanket club, but I will, so this will shortly enter the ranks of unfinished projects. And I have the Alaska hat, which I'm still working on. I have the framework bralette, which I'm still working on. A Volt sweater where I have a Volt sweater where I have done the ribbing of the first of the front of which has that intarsia lightning bolt. I have that. I have a For Fox's Sake sweater, which I know I mention a lot, but I never show you because I'm like a little bit ashamed that I haven't done those last 10 colorwork rows because I'm ridiculous. Yeah, the For Fox's Sake, and I have what is it called? I think it's called the Half Moon Tee. The designer is Dragon Horde Designs, I think. Half Moon Tee that I haven't done. Half Moon Tee, because that was the one I was like, I'm gonna have this ready for Halloween, and then when I didn't, it kind of got abandoned a little bit. I will finish it eventually. I'm on like the just plain knitting part now, which is probably why I've not done very much. And so there's 3 garments. I feel like there's another one I'm forgetting. There's definitely another garment I'm forgetting. In any case, yeah, I've got, and those are just the projects that I can remember off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure there's a pair of mitts that I started like 3 years ago at a knitting retreat and have not finished them. It's because they were meant to be like the weekend project and I didn't finish them because they were in herringbone stitch, which takes longer than, you know, other textured stitches. And so I got 1.5 done, and then when I wasn't done with it at the end of the weekend, I was like, well, oh well, I guess I'll never finish it now. Still sitting in a bag somewhere. Oh, there's like socks that I haven't started, or socks that I have started, but I've done like the toe and that's it. Listen, we've all got, you know, projects, probably. A lot of people have multiple projects. You should comment and tell me how many projects you have on the go right now to make me feel better about mine. Like I said, there's definitely ones that I'm forgetting. I just can't remember what they are right now. There's definitely at least 1 pair of socks. There's definitely the Alaska hat. There's 3 garments, I think. This blanket will be on that list soon as well. I'm definitely forgetting stuff. In any case, I know that a lot of you will be thinking, oh, like, you know, guilty pleasures with food, and like, I'm not here for that at all. Like, we can joke about guilty pleasures with other things, but we need food to survive, y'all. You shouldn't feel guilty about eating food. And if you're gonna drop into the comments to be like, yeah, but we shouldn't be eating crap, like, listen, it's cool. Like, I'm not gonna tell anyone else how to live their life, but I know that in my life I'm not really interested in feeling guilty about eating food. I did that for quite a long period of time in my life. I'm kind of done with it. I'm bored of that now. I'm not really interested in maintaining this ultimate guilt about eating food. You know what? I'm like, just talking about this is frustrating me. So I think I'm going to go and make brownies when I'm done filming these videos, and no one can stop me. I actually bought the brownie mix last week because I was like, I really want some cake, because in the live stream on Saturday we were talking about cake. I was like, I really want some cake, but I couldn't, there's no like ready-made cake in the store. There's no cake. So I thought, oh well, I'll get a cake mix, and then I was like, I just wanted to just be given cake. I didn't want to have to make it, but maybe I'll make it now. So I'm not here for guilty pleasures with food. I am not here for it, fam. Not here for it. Anyway, so as I said, this is pre-recorded. I've said that like a million times in this episode. This is pre-recorded, but I am wearing my Operation Social Justice shirt. So we will leave that up, I don't know, just kind of indefinitely, really. And as we get money in through it, we will donate that money straight to the Albert Kennedy Trust. They help homeless LGBT youth. The art was done by Sarah, of course, not me. The art was done by Sarah, and that's always just we're just gonna keep that up there, and any money that we make from any of those Redbubble sales will go straight to charity. I don't know how much we've made to date. I think it's probably around 50 to 70 pounds, I think, from the Redbubble sales. Obviously the commission that we get is smaller, but it was because we didn't really have the room or the cash outlay to like buy a bunch of stuff to sell it. It made more sense to have it be up on Redbubble. But we're gonna leave that there. So if you're like, hey, Operation Social Justice, which launched last Sunday, was completely and super rad, and I want a token of my participation, then you can do that. I got the baseball shirt because I quite like baseball shirts. Like, they're comfy and I feel cool. But it's on lots of other stuff too, just regular t-shirts and mugs, totes. I got a tote. I forgot to bring it out here. Yeah. So that's there. And like I said, I hope that Operation Social Justice had a really amazing launch. But as I'm recording this prior to the time, I don't actually know. And I guess that maybe I might have done a live stream on Sunday, but I don't really know if I did that or not, because I'm recording this ahead of time, which normally isn't that big a deal, but I feel like around this it feels a bit strange. I'm gonna leave it there for this week, and I will tell you that next week in episode 40 I will be showing you some new yarn bases that I ordered and will be dyeing up and having experimentation with, and hopefully you will tune in for that. Anyway, please do like and subscribe. Like I said, drop me a comment, tell me any patterns that you like, tell me how many projects you have on the go. I don't know, just tell me things. And if you don't want to miss any of the gamer crafting videos and live streams, you can tap the bell to be notified whenever a new video becomes available. It also helps us defeat the YouTube algorithm, which is becoming increasingly hostile by the day. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I will see you all next week.